father's position in the story. The children in the audience will take lesson from the child's position in the story. If the speaker then says, the only lesson in this is, we should respect parents, then all the parents will say, ha ha, see, I told you you should respect me. Right? And all the parents lost that lesson. And subhanAllah, there are things, when people ask me about Hajj, and the story of Hajj and so on, and they're like, what is the lesson of Hajj? I find that if someone does say the only lesson of Hajj is such and such, they're overstepping their bounds. Because the lessons are so enormous, they're bigger than any human can encompass. You can't say it in a speech that the lessons of Hajj are like this. Because the lessons of Hajj might be equivalent in number to the amount of people that come for Hajj. There's that many lessons. It's too large for someone to encompass like that. And the stories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Qur'an are enormous. You can continue to squeeze them and continue to extract lessons from them. And thirdly, humans love stories. Human beings love stories. From the beginning of time till today, you'll see the movie industry and all of that. They're still continuing because people love to hear stories. And they'll pay their money and so on and so forth. When I give a lecture, and in fact when I see other speakers not mentioning stories in their lectures, maybe after the speech, I'll go and tell them, add a few stories in your lectures. Because the stories, while I'm speaking, slowly I can see your shoulders slumping, and you're looking at your cell phone, see how many calls you got and stuff like that. I'll start with a story. Once the story begins, everybody's head starts, piping up. Everybody looks up, and now they're paying attention. You want to get it from the beginning of the story till the end. You want to find out what happened. And subhanAllah, one thing I notice when people listen to my khutbahs, when they listen to the khutbahs, and they're like, brother, I loved your khutbah. One of the first, my data gathering, I'll always ask the person, what do you remember from the khutbah? That's my automatic question. Someone tells me, I love the khutbah. What do you remember from the khutbah? It is always, I don't think I've ever had an experience where someone did not tell me that what they remembered from the khutbah was one of the stories in the khutbah. Almost every single time. I've never heard, and subhanAllah, I might mention different stories, but the stories that stick are the personal stories that I tell. I'd say almost 100% of everybody that I asked, not 100%, maybe 90% of everybody asked, what do you remember? It was the personal stories that I mentioned in the khutbah. And one of the brothers, I don't know if he's here right now, but he was just telling me after Fajr, he purchased one of the CDs and he listened to it last night, and he said, I remembered about the halal chicken thing you were saying in the khutbah. And he said, because I have a grocery store and so on. That was like a personal thing that happened with my father. And I'll just give you this other story. There's this little girl in Al-Huda school. And I was waiting in line. She was in front of me. And then she said, Brother Muhammad Alshareef, when you grow up, you're going to be a big star. And then I said, I'm already grown up. And then she said, I love your khutbahs. And so I said, oh, here's a chance for me to say, get some data feedback. And so I told her, what do you remember the most from the khutbahs? She said, I remember the time. She said, I remember the part when you were saying that you were in the Christmas concert. And then she said to me, she goes, Brother Muhammad, were you Muslim at that time? And I said, unfortunately, yes, I was Muslim at that time, but we're still going to Christmas concerts. Not unfortunately, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us. Number 4, actually one last thing about the stories. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, in the story of the 2 sons of Adam, again, another story that you're very familiar with. Surah Al-Ma'idah you're not familiar with except the ayah that talks about the halal meat issue. And then the story of Ibn Adam, the 2 sons of Adam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاتْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ نَبَأَ ابْنَيْ آدَمَ بِالْحَقِّ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, recite to them. And that's the key that I want you to hear. وَاتْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ. Recite to them this story. It's a commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a fi'l amr, that the believer is told to recite to the people the story of the 2 sons of Adam. And so it's not just, oh, this was a nice story. It's a story meant to be applied. Okay, number 4, using stimulating questions. Using stimulating questions. How many times have you heard this part of the hadith where the companions say, Allahu wa rasuluhu a'lam. Allah and His Messenger know best. How many times have you heard that? Has anybody not heard that section of a hadith? Anybody not heard it? Okay. Almost every single one of you has heard a hadith being mentioned, and you will hear the part where the companions say, Allahu wa Rasuluhu a'lam. If you take one step before they said that, the Prophet ﷺ began by asking a question. And their etiquette with Rasulullah ﷺ was that they didn't say, I know the answer, and just go and answer it. Some of the companions would know the answer, but they know that this was the prophetic technique of when the Prophet ﷺ wanted to say something, he would ask them in a question form. And then the people would pay attention, and then he would give the answer, after the attention has been grasped. Now, you can compare this to a normal teacher, or someone giving da'wah, coming in and making the statement. And the statement, the person is taken aback. They weren't prepared to hear the statement. The statement has been said. Maybe argumentation just kicks off after that. But the prophetic technique, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is to begin with those questions first. And a stimulating question. Ibrahim alayhi salam, if you know, and subhanallah, when I prepared this class, and I saw the techniques of Ibrahim alayhi salam, I believe that a whole class can be done on the da'wah techniques of Ibrahim alayhi salam, as mentioned in the Qur'an. And if someone, you can take that idea, tell one of your shuyukh, but it has to be studied. Because it is so deep, it needs to go deeper and deeper. Ibrahim alayhi salam, I'm reading in negotiation books how to get someone to a specific answer. And then I see Ibrahim alayhi salam in the Qur'an using these techniques that I've just learned. Ibrahim alayhi salam begins his da'wah by saying, ما هذه التماثيل التي أنتم لها عاكفون. He didn't start by saying, this is shirk, you're doing haram, you're going to go to hellfire. He started by saying, what are these idols that you stand in vigilance over? And he let the people speak. And this is a negotiation technique to just ask the people why. Why are you saying this? A person says Trinity, tell them why. Why does it have to be Trinity? You don't have to go into the refutations just like that, but start with the stimulating question. Question number one should always be why. And I know it's being used against you. Every time you tell them worship one God, they'll say why, and then you're back on the defensive. You're the one who should tell them why. They say, no, we will worship ourselves. You tell them, why do you worship yourselves? You're the one who should start with these techniques, using stimulating questions. And Ibrahim alayhi salam, he said to them, قَالَ هَلْ يَسْمَعُونَكُمْ إِذْ تَدْعُونَ أَوْ يَنْفَعُونَكُمْ أَوْ يَضُرُّونَ. He said, do they hear you when you make dua? Can they bring you benefit or can they bring you harm? And now a lot of people, when they ask their questions to people, they might ask it in a condescending way. Condescending meaning like in an arrogant type of position. But when Ibrahim alayhi salam asked these questions, the people were sincerely answering. He didn't say it in a way to belittle them. He said it in a way to provoke their thinking. And they sincerely took it. And finally, all his questions led them to make the conclusion to Ibrahim. They're the ones who said that these idols, you know, Ibrahim, that they can't speak and they can't do anything. And Ibrahim alayhi salam just looked at them when they came to that conclusion themselves. He said, أُفِّلْ لَكُمْ وَلِمَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. He said, don't you use your minds. And any kufr is ignorance. Whether they worship Trinity or they worship themselves or they worship whatever they are, it is kufr and it's ignorance. No possible way can someone who has that type of aqeedah come out and show everyone that they're the logical person, unless the Muslim has no idea what Islam is talking about. And you have to get into the position where you get the people to the conclusion where they understand that what they're doing is wrong, and then you say to them, أُفِّلْ لَكُمْ وَلِمَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. Inshallah, if you get a chance to read that surah again. No, actually what happened was, it was ignorance and then it turned to arrogance. It's ignorance, and when they found out the truth, then it became arrogance, then they were people of hellfire because of that. And so a lot of times when we're talking about hellfire, you're talking about people that have never heard about Islam. They haven't gotten to the level of Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl and the people of Ibrahim, because we never gave them the da'wah to take them to that position. That's why I'm saying that when people look down upon the society, I really think that it's a reflection of what have we done for them? And the downness should be looking at us. I'm not saying get down. That's putting a little pain in it. Inshallah, the pleasure is that keep working hard, inshallah. Okay, stimulating questions. Number 5, reminding people of Allah's blessings. Reminding people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings. If you know in Surah Al-Rahman, and it's a very popular surah, a lot of people love Surah Al-Rahman, right? What's the ayah that gets repeated throughout the surah? فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ? Which one of the favors will you deny? If you just memorize that one ayah, and I know you already have it memorized, and you already know the translation, the next time a disbeliever argues with you, you just answer by reciting the verse. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ? And they'll just say, what did you just say? They'll be shocked. They'll be silenced. They never expected an answer like that. And you can talk any argument or they're like, what about women's issue? Or what about this? And what about the current situation that? You answer with that